Okay, so today we're diving deep into this idea of explainable AI in finance.
Sounds intriguing.
Well, you brought this research paper to my attention.
Uh-huh.
It's a systematic review from 2023, and it's really all about making AI in finance, well, explainable.
Right.
It's like, taking all the greatest hits of research on how to make AI decisions make sense to us humans.
Exactly. And this is particularly crucial in finance, isn't it?
Oh,
It's
absolutely.
such a heavily regulated field.
For good reason. We're
Absolutely.
talking about people's money, their livelihoods.
Right.
Every financial decision really needs to be transparent, justifiable. It,
Yes.
it can't just be like a magical output from an algorithm.
You don't want to just get a computer says no.
No, not at all.
Uh,
No one wants their loan application rejected with a simple computer says no without any understanding of why.
Exactly. And that's where this paper gets really interesting.
Okay, tell me more.
It highlights this, almost paradoxical situation. The finance industry is, in many ways, like a perfect playground for AI.
Well, I can see that, yeah.
You have these huge data sets,
Right.
a constant need for risk assessment, tons of potential for automation.
Yeah, it sounds like a match made in heaven.
You would think so, but
There's always a but, isn't there?
there is, and it's a big one.
Okay, I'm intrigued.
The black box problem.
Yes. The infamous black box.
Most AI systems are opaque.
Right.
Their inner workings are hidden from view.
They're a mystery.
They are. And this is a massive issue in finance where trust and transparency are absolutely paramount.
Okay, yeah, I'm starting to see the tension here.
Yeah,
We have this really powerful tool in AI,
right.
but its lack of transparency makes it almost unusable in a field as sensitive as finance.
Exactly.
It's almost like having a world-class chef who refuses to share their recipes.
I like that analogy.
You might enjoy the meal, but you're always left wondering, like, what's actually in this?
Exactly, and that's exactly the gap that explainable AI or XAI is trying to bridge.
Okay, so it's about lifting the veil, so to speak,
Exactly.
letting us peek behind the curtain.
XAI is all about making the reasoning behind AI decisions understandable to humans.
Okay, so whether it's for, regulatory compliance, building trust with clients, or even for financial experts to learn from the AI's insights,
Uh-huh.
XAI aims to crack open that black box.
Yes.
All right, so XAI is about making those AI's decisions clear.
Yes.
But is it just about, providing information? Or are the goals of XAI a little bit more complex than that?
I think it's definitely more nuanced than just spitting out data.
Okay.
I mean, this research review breaks down the goals of XAI into different categories, right?
Okay.
So, of course, there's informativeness, making sure the AI can explain itself, but there's also trustworthiness, fairness,
Uh-huh.
and even privacy awareness.
Privacy awareness.
Yeah.
That seems particularly relevant in finance, given, just how much personal data is involved.
Absolutely. And the paper actually points out that while most research focuses on making AI informative, areas like privacy get comparatively less attention.
That seems like a pretty significant gap,
It is.
especially when we're talking about something as sensitive as, people's financial data.
It is, and it highlights an area where research, regulation, and practical application, may need to catch up.
Right.
XAI needs to be ethical and responsible, not just informative.
Absolutely. It's got to be the whole package.
Exactly.
Okay, so we understand why XAI matters in finance, but let's get into the how.
Okay.
How do we actually make AI explainable?
So the review talks about two main approaches.
Okay.
First, there are models that are designed to be transparent from the start,
Okay.
like decision trees.
Decision trees. So these are models where the decision-making process is clear, easy to follow.
Exactly, kind of like a flowchart.
Yeah, okay.
The paper actually gives an example of this, a decision tree that's used to predict loss given default on bank loans. And so the tree uses, clear factors like the loan size, the length of the client's relationship with the bank to estimate the recovery rate.
So everything's laid out in the open.
Exactly, no mystery involved.
Okay, so that's one approach, using models that are transparent by design.
Right.
But what about the more, complex AI models?
Sure.
The ones that aren't so open book?
That's where that second approach comes in, post hoc explanation.
Post hoc explanation. Okay.
These are methods that we apply after a complex AI model has already made a decision.
Uh-huh.
They essentially translate the AI's logic into something that we humans can understand.
Okay, so it's like we're giving our secretive world-class chef a food critic
I like that.
who can at least explain what makes the dish so delicious.
Exact-
Even if we don't get the exact recipe.
Exactly.
And what's interesting is that even within post hoc methods, you have different levels of depth,
Yeah.
right? There are model agnostic
Yeah.
methods like LIME and ESHAP,
Right.
which can be used with any type of AI model. So they're like universal translators for AI.
Yes, you got it.
They can help explain any model,
They can-
regardless of its specific architecture.
Exactly. So Lyme and ESHAPE can, pinpoint which factors were most influential in a specific decision.
Okay.
So they could, highlight why a particular loan application was rejected
Okay.
by pointing to the factors that the AI model considered most important.
That's fascinating.
Yeah.
So it's almost like having a magnifying glass that lets you zoom in on the AI's reasoning.
Yes.
But what about methods that are specifically tailored to particular AI architectures?
Right. So those are called model-specific methods.
Model-specific methods, okay.
So a good example from the paper is using partial dependence plots,
Okay.
or PDPs, to understand an AI model predicting loan defaults.
Okay.
And so PDPs let you visualize how a single factor, say the age of the accounting data that a company provides,
Okay.
impacts the predicted probability of default.
So it's like having different lenses, right?
Yeah.
To examine the AI's decision-making process, depending on how deep you want to go.
Exactly. And what's interesting is that the research seems to be shifting towards these post hoc methods,
Really?
especially as AI models become more and more complex.
Well, that makes sense, right? I mean, if AI keeps getting more sophisticated, we need increasingly sophisticated ways to actually understand it.
Exactly.
But is the financial world actually adopting these XAI methods?
Right?
Or is this just, theoretical research at this point?
I mean, that's a great question.
Yeah.
And it's something that this research review dives into.
Okay.
It looks at which areas of finance are seeing the most XAI adoption. And the findings are pretty interesting.
Okay, I'm all ears. Where is XAI making the biggest waves?
Well, it probably won't surprise you that risk management and the stock market are two of the hottest areas.
Makes sense. Those are areas with a lot of uncertainty,
Exactly.
potentially huge financial consequences.
Right.
Are there any specific examples from the paper?
Yeah, the paper mentions using XAI to predict stock prices
Wow.
and even to help optimize investment portfolios.
So using AI to try and make sense of the market's madness.
Exactly, but with XAI there to help us understand AI's reasoning.
Okay.
So it's not just, blindly following the algorithm.
Right. We have some insight into why it's making those decisions.
Exactly.
That's incredible. It sounds like XAI could, revolutionize the way we approach investing.
Yes.
But the paper also mentioned areas where XAI adoption seems to be lagging, right?
Right.
What were some of those?
One area that stood out to me was anti-money laundering,
Interesting.
given how, crucial that is for financial institutions.
Yeah,
It seems like a prime candidate for XAI.
it does.
But the research suggests that it's not getting the same level of attention as other areas.
That is surprising.
Yeah.
Why do you think that is?
Hmm.
Is it a technical challenge? Is it a lack of data?
That's a great question. And to be honest, it's one that the review doesn't fully answer. But it's definitely a point to ponder.
Yeah.
Could it be related to the, complexity of anti-money laundering models? Or perhaps, the sensitive nature of the data involved.
All valid points.
Yeah.
Maybe it's a combination of factors.
Could be.
But, the fact that the research highlights this gap suggests that it's an area ripe for future exploration.
Absolutely. I think there's a lot more work to be done there. And it really underscores a key point, right?
Okay.
For AI to fully realize its potential in finance,
Uh-huh.
XAI is non-negotiable.
It's not just about the algorithms working.
Right.
It's about people being able to trust them.
Exactly.
A financial decision can't just be right. It needs to be right for the right reasons.
Exactly.
And we need to be able to understand those reasons.
Transparency builds trust.
Right.
And trust is the bedrock of the entire financial system.
Couldn't agree more. And I'm already starting to see how this all ties back to those ethical considerations we were talking about earlier. But before we dive deeper into that, I think it's time to address, the elephant in the room.
Okay.
Privacy.
Uh-huh.
We've talked about how much personal data is involved in these financial decisions, and we've touched on the fact that privacy hasn't received as much attention in XAI research.
Right.
So, how do we balance the need for transparency with the need to protect people's sensitive information?
That's the million-dollar question.
Right. We're talking about everything from your income and spending habits to your investment choices and risk tolerance.
Right.
This data is incredibly valuable.
It is.
And as AI systems become more sophisticated, the need to protect this information becomes even more paramount.
Absolutely.
Now, the research review briefly mentioned the EU's General Data Protection Regulation.
GDPR.
Yes, GDPR,
Uh-huh.
which is a good example of how, regulations are trying to catch up with the rapid pace of technological change.
It is.
But it also seems like there's still a long way to go,
Yeah.
especially in the context of XAI.
I think
We need to ensure that these systems are designed with privacy in mind from the very beginning,
absolutely.
not as an afterthought.
It has to be baked in from the start.
So it's about baking privacy into the DNA of these systems.
Exactly.
Well, what does that actually look like in practice?
That's a good question.
What are some of the specific steps that need to be taken?
Well, I think it's multifaceted.
Okay.
We need to think carefully about things like, data anonymization, ensuring that individuals can't be easily identified from the data that's used to train these AI models.
Right.
And of course, consent management is critical.
Absolutely.
Making sure that individuals are fully informed about how their data is being used.
Right.
And that they have a choice in the matter.
All of that makes sense. But even with the best intentions,
right,
there's always the risk of data breaches.
Always.
What happens if all the information used by these XAI systems falls into the wrong hands?
It would be a disaster.
Right. It doesn't bear thinking about.
And it underscores the absolute necessity of robust cybersecurity measures.
Yeah.
These systems need to be built with multiple layers of protection.
We're talking about everything from data encryption and strict access controls.
Yes.
To regular security audits to make sure those protections are working as intended.
Absolutely. It can't just be a one-time thing. It has to be an ongoing process.
So it's not just about the technology itself.
Right.
It's about the people and processes surrounding it.
Exactly. So employee training and awareness are absolutely crucial to prevent, unintentional data leaks or phishing attacks.
Those are all valid points.
It's a huge responsibility.
It is. It seems like a huge responsibility for these financial institutions.
It is.
But it's also an incredible opportunity, right?
Absolutely.
The companies that prioritize ethical and responsible XAI development are the ones who will build trust and ultimately thrive in this rapidly evolving landscape.
Couldn't have said it better myself.
Okay, so we've covered a lot of ground here. We've talked about the why of XAI, why it's so essential in the world of finance.
Right.
And we started to explore the different techniques and approaches for making AI explainable. But there's another crucial dimension to this, the who. Who's actually doing this work?
Yeah.
Is it all happening in universities, or are companies leading the charge?
That's a great question. And honestly, it's a really interesting mix.
A collaborative effort.
Exactly. You've got researchers in academia really pushing the boundaries of what's possible with XAI.
Okay.
They're the ones developing new techniques, exploring those theoretical underpinnings, thinking deeply about those ethical implications we discussed.
Right. They're the ones kind of trying to fill in those gaps in research we talked about earlier.
Exactly.
Figuring out the best ways to, address the challenges of privacy and fairness in XAI.
Precisely. And then on the other side, you have companies, particularly those in the financial sector, who are starting to see the real-world value of integrating XAI into their operations.
So it's not just theoretical research anymore.
Right. Companies are actually putting these XAI methods into practice.
Citrus.
And they're seeing real benefits.
Okay.
Not just from a regulatory standpoint, but also in terms of building trust with their customers.
Yeah, I can see how that would be appealing.
Right.
If a company can clearly explain how its AI systems are making financial decisions. It builds confidence. Right.
Absolutely.
Transparency.
It's all about demonstrating that you're using AI responsibly and ethically.
Right.
And hopefully, these companies are also feeding back their real-world experiences to the researchers.
Okay.
Helping them to refine their XAI techniques.
Right.
Address any challenges that crop up along the way.
So it's a two-way street.
Exactly.
A kind of symbiotic relationship between the researchers who are developing the XAI tools.
Yes.
And the companies who are putting those tools to the test in real-world financial scenarios.
Exactly. It's a feedback loop that's essential for the advancement of XAI in finance.
It makes sense.
After all, even the most brilliant XAI system is useless if it's too complicated or expensive for companies to actually implement.
Right. It's got to be practical.
Exactly. It's got to work in the real world.
It's all about finding that, sweet spot where the technology is sophisticated enough to be effective,
right,
but also practical enough to be widely adopted.
Exactly. And that's where this whole idea of the XAI ecosystem comes in.
Okay, the XAI ecosystem, I like that.
It's not just about the technology itself, it's about all the different people and stakeholders involved.
Okay, let's break that down. Who are the key players in this XAI ecosystem?
So first and foremost, you've got the data scientists.
Okay.
They're the ones building the AI models, using their expertise to analyze massive data sets, create algorithms that can make complex financial decisions.
They're the brains behind the operation.
Yes, but it's not just about building powerful algorithms.
Right.
We need to make sure that those algorithms are fair,
Right.
unbiased, and used responsibly.
Yeah.
And that's where the ethicists come in.
Okay, so they're like the moral compass of the XAI ecosystem.
Exactly. They're constantly asking those tough questions about potential biases, unintended consequences, and the ethical implications of using AI to make decisions that impact people's lives.
Crucial role, especially when we're talking about something as sensitive as finance.
Absolutely. But we also need to consider the legal and regulatory landscape.
Right.
And that's where the role of regulators comes in.
Okay, so they're the ones kind of setting the ground rules.
Exactly.
Making sure that XAI is being used in a way that protects consumers
Right.
and maintains the integrity of the financial system.
Precisely. They're constantly evaluating existing regulations, developing new ones to keep pace with the rapid advancement of AI in finance.
Sounds like a challenging job.
It is. It definitely is.
Trying to keep up with such a fast-moving field.
Absolutely. And then, of course, you have the financial experts themselves.
Right, the people on the front lines,
In
the loan officers, the investment advisors, the risk managers.
Yes.
All the people who are actually using these XAI systems on a daily basis.
Right. And they need to be able to understand those XAI outputs,
Right.
interpret the explanations,
Right.
and make informed decisions based on that information.
Right, they need to be trained to use these tools effectively.
Exactly.
And to recognize their limitations.
Exactly.
And then ultimately you have the customers,
Yes.
the people who are most impacted by the decisions that these AI systems are making.
It's their financial lives that are on the line.
It is.
And it's their trust that we need to earn.
Absolutely.
That's why this transparency and explainability are so crucial.
Right.
If people don't understand how these systems are working,
Mm-hmm.
they're less likely to trust them, and that can undermine the entire system.
So it all comes full circle.
Yeah.
We're back to that foundational idea of trust.
It's-
XAI is not just about building sophisticated algorithms.
Right.
It's about building trust in those algorithms.
Yes.
And in the people and institutions that use them.
And it's about recognizing that XAI is not a magic bullet.
Right.
It's a tool. And like any tool, it can be used for good or for ill.
It all depends on the intentions of the people using it. So it's about more than just, technical innovation.
Right.
It's about human values, ethical decision-making, and a commitment to using AI for the benefit of society.
Absolutely.
All right, well, this has been really insightful so far. We've covered so much ground. The reasons behind XAI's rise in finance, the different goals and techniques, the ethical considerations, the importance of privacy and security, and the role of all the different stakeholders in this evolving ecosystem.
It is a complex and rapidly evolving landscape.
It is.
But one thing's for sure,
What's that?
XAI is here to stay.
It certainly seems that way.
It does.
And as we continue to navigate the world of finance, it's, essential to stay informed about these developments.
Yes, absolutely.
The more we understand about how AI and XAI are shaping the financial landscape, the better equipped we'll be to make, responsible and informed decisions.
Whether we're investors,
Right.
borrowers, or simply consumers trying to make sense of it all.
Yeah.
XAI is going to play an increasingly important role in our financial lives.
Well, you've given us a solid foundation here today, but the exploration doesn't stop here.
No.
I want to encourage our listeners to dive deeper into the world of XAI.
Please do.
Ask questions. Consider the implications for your own financial decisions.
It's an exciting field.
It is. It's a rapidly changing field.
Absolutely.
And the future of finance is being shaped right now.
Yeah.
And it's up to all of us to ensure that it's a future that we can all trust and understand.
Couldn't agree more. It's a really interesting mix, actually.
So like a collaborative effort across different sectors?
Exactly. You've got researchers in academia, they're really pushing the boundaries of what's possible with XAI.
Okay.
They're developing new techniques, exploring those theoretical underpinnings, and thinking deeply about all those ethical implications we were discussing.
Right. They're the ones who are trying to fill in those gaps in research that we talked about.
Exactly.
Figuring out the best ways to address, the challenges of privacy and fairness
Precisely.
in XAI.
And then, on the other side, you have companies, particularly those in the financial sector,
Right.
who are starting to see the real-world value of integrating XAI into their operations.
So it's not just theoretical research anymore.
Right. Companies are actually putting these XAI methods into practice.
Wow. So they're seeing real benefits from that.
They are, and they're seeing real benefits not just from a regulatory standpoint, but also in terms of building trust with their customers.
Yeah, I can see how that would be appealing. If a company can clearly explain how if AI systems are making these financial decisions, it just builds confidence and transparency.
Absolutely.
Right.
It's all about demonstrating that you're using AI responsibly and ethically.
Right.
And hopefully these companies are also feeding back their real-world experiences to those researchers.
Okay.
So that they can refine the XAI techniques and address any challenges that crop up along the way.
So it's a two-way street.
Exactly.
Kind of a symbiotic relationship between the researchers developing these tools and the companies that are actually using them.
Exactly. It's a feedback loop that's essential for the advancement of XAI in finance.
Right, because at the end of the day, the most brilliant XAI system is useless if it's too complicated or expensive for companies to actually implement.
Exactly. It's got to work in the real world.
It's got to be practical.
It does.
It's all about finding that sweet spot where the technology is sophisticated enough to be effective,
right,
but also practical enough to be widely adopted.
Exactly, and that's where this whole idea of the XAI ecosystem comes in.
Okay, the XAI ecosystem, I like that.
It's not just about the technology itself, it's about all the different people and stakeholders involved.
Okay, so let's break that down. Who are the key players in this XAI ecosystem?
So, first and foremost, you've got the data scientists.
Okay, the data scientists, right?
They're the ones building the AI models, using their expertise to analyze these massive data sets, create these algorithms that can make these complex financial decisions.
So they're the brains behind the operation.
Yes, but it's not just about building powerful algorithms, right? We need to make sure that those algorithms are fair, unbiased, and used responsibly.
Of course.
And that's where the ethicists come in.
Okay, they're ethicists.
They're like the moral compass of the XAI ecosystem.
Right, they're the ones who are constantly asking those tough questions.
Exactly.
About, potential biases, unintended consequences.
Yes.
And the ethical implications of using AI to make decisions that impact people's lives.
Exactly.
Right, and that's crucial, especially when we're talking about something as sensitive as finance.
Absolutely. But we also need to consider the legal and regulatory landscape.
Of course.
And that's where the role of regulators comes in.
The regulators, right? They're the ones who are kind of setting the ground rules.
Exactly.
Making sure that XAI is being used in a way that protects consumers and maintains the integrity of the financial system.
Precisely. They're constantly evaluating existing regulations and developing new ones to keep pace with this rapid advancement of AI in finance.
I mean, that sounds like a challenging job.
It is. It definitely is.
Trying to keep up with such a fast-moving field.
Absolutely.
And then, of course, you have the financial experts themselves.
Right. The people on the front lines.
The loan officers, investment advisors, risk managers.
Yes. All the people who are actually using these XAI systems on a daily basis.
Right. They need to be able to understand those XAI outputs, interpret those explanations, and then make informed decisions based on that information.
Right. They need to be trained to use these tools effectively and to recognize their limitations.
Absolutely. And then ultimately, you have the customers.
Yes.
The people who are most impacted by the decisions that these AI systems are making.
It's their financial lives that are on the line.
Right. It's their trust that we need to earn.
Exactly. That's why this transparency and explainability are so crucial.
If people don't understand how these systems are working, they're less likely to trust them.
Right.
And that can really undermine the whole system.
Exactly.
So it all comes back full circle to that foundational idea of trust.
Exactly.
XAI is not just about building sophisticated algorithms.
Right.
It's about building trust in those algorithms and in the people and institutions that use them.
And it's about recognizing that XAI is not a magic bullet.
Right.
It's a tool. And like any tool, it can be used for good or for ill.
It all depends on the intentions of the people using it. So it's about more than just technical innovation. It's about human values, ethical decision-making, and a commitment to using AI for the benefit of society.
Absolutely. And as AI continues to permeate the financial industry, the importance of XAI will only grow.
Right. I totally agree.
It's going to be a defining factor in how we navigate this increasingly complex world of finance.
This has been an incredibly insightful deep dive. We've
Uh,
covered so much ground.
We have.
You know, the reasons behind XAI's rise in finance,
Uh-huh.
the different goals and techniques, the ethical considerations, the importance of privacy and security, and the role of all these different stakeholders in this evolving ecosystem.
It's a complex and rapidly evolving landscape, but one thing is clear.
What's that?
XAI is here to stay.
And as we continue to navigate the world of finance, it's essential to stay informed about these developments.
Absolutely.
The more we understand about how AI and XAI are shaping the financial landscape, the better equipped we'll be to make responsible and informed decisions.
Whether we're investors, borrowers, or just consumers trying to make sense of it all,
Right.
XAI is going to play an increasingly important role in our financial lives.
Well, this deep dive has given our listeners a solid foundation.
I hope so.
But the exploration doesn't stop here.
No.
As you move forward, keep thinking critically about the implications of XAI.
Yes.
What are the potential benefits and risks?
Yeah.
How can we ensure that XAI is used ethically and responsibly?
What questions do you have about XAI and its impact on your own financial journey?
Those are great questions for our listeners to ponder.
Yeah.
Keep those questions in mind as you continue to learn and explore.
Yes.
The future of finance is being written right now.
It is.
And it's up to all of us to ensure that it's a future built on trust, transparency, and ethical decision-making.
Okay, so we've talked about the why of XAI in finance, the how, but with all this talk about algorithms and data,
Right.
I'm just curious, what does XAI actually look like in practice?
Yeah, that's a great question. What kind of information does it actually provide to a user?
I mean, it really depends, right?
Okay.
It depends on the specific XAI method being used
Yeah.
and the context of the decision being made.
Okay.
But let me give you a couple examples.
Perfect. Yeah, let's get specific.
So say you're a financial analyst
Okay.
and you're using an AI model to assess the creditworthiness of a potential borrower.
Okay. A classic scenario.
Right. And this AI model could be analyzing a vast amount of data.
Uh-huh.
I mean, their income, their debt, their payment history,
Wow.
even their social media activity.
Okay, so a lot more data points
Yeah.
than a traditional credit scoring system.
Exactly. But without XAI, you'd only see that final score.
Right.
No insight into how the AI actually arrived at that conclusion.
Right, it's just a number on a screen
Exactly. And that's where XAI steps in.
to provide that missing context.
Exactly. So let's say this AI model is using a method called LIME.
Okay.
LIME, which we talked about earlier.
Uh-huh.
LIME could generate an explanation. Okay.
That highlights the specific factors that were most influential in determining that credit score.
Okay.
So it might say something like, this individual's high debt-to-income ratio
Okay.
and recent late payments were the most significant factors contributing to their lower score.
So it's not just giving you a number.
Right.
It's giving you the reasoning behind that number.
Exactly. Now imagine a different scenario, okay?
Okay.
You're an investment manager,
All right.
and you're using an AI-powered system to manage a portfolio.
Okay. Yeah.
This system is using, complex algorithms to make buy and sell decisions.
Right.
Aiming to maximize returns.
High stakes stuff.
High stakes, and I bet a lot of investors would love to know what's going on under the hood of those algorithms.
Absolutely.
Now, let's say this system is using a post hoc method called SHAP,
Okay. SHAP.
which can provide, a more detailed breakdown of how different factors contributed to a particular investment decision.
Okay. Walk me through this.
Okay.
What kind of insights could SHAP actually provide? So SHA could create a visual representation, like a force plot,
Okay.
that shows how each factor pushed the AI's decision towards buying or selling a particular stock.
Interesting.
So, for example, it might show that the company's strong earnings report was a positive force,
Okay.
pushing towards a buy decision. But concerns about an upcoming recession acted as a negative force, pushing towards a sell decision.
Okay, so you can really see the interplay of all these different factors.
Exactly. And that level of transparency can be invaluable, right?
Absolutely. It helps build trust in the system. It allows for better decision making.
And it can even provide valuable insights that human experts can learn from.
Right. They can see what the AI is prioritizing, how it's weighing different factors.
Yes.
This has really been an eye-opening deep dive.
Good.
We've gone from the broad why of XAI in finance all the way down to concrete examples of what that explanation might actually look like.
And it's clear that XAI is much more than just a technical challenge, right? It's really a journey towards a more transparent, trustworthy, and ultimately, I think, a more human-centered approach to finance.
Absolutely. And, as we wrap up this deep dive, what's the one key takeaway you want our listener to walk away with?
I think it's that XAI is not just some futuristic concept.
Right.
It's happening now.
It's happening now.
And it has the potential to reshape the financial landscape in some really profound ways.
Absolutely.
It's not just about making AI work.
Right.
It's about making AI work for us.
Right. For us humans.
In a way that's ethical, responsible, and understandable.
Beautifully put. And to our listener, we encourage you to continue this exploration. Dive deeper into the world of XAI. Ask questions and consider the implications for your own financial decisions.
Yes.
The future of finance is being shaped right now.
It is.
And it's up to all of us to ensure that it's a future we can all trust and understand.